My name is Alex Harper. I'm 28, and I didn't know I was no longer part of my family. Until I arrived at my sister's wedding dressed in my best suit, gift in hand, and found out I'd been assigned a seat in the hallway. Not near the dance floor. Not even in the corner of the reception hall. No. The hallway. Right next to the coat rack. And the fire extinguisher. And in case you're wondering, no, it wasn't some kind of overflow table. It was just me. Table for one. Under a buzzing emergency light and the faint smell of cheap cologne from everyone's winter coats, I remember standing there holding my name card, thinking, this has to be a mistake. I hadn't even walked past the cake yet, and already I felt like a security guard, not a guest. I could hear the laughter echoing from the ballroom, glasses clinking, my sister's voice, and not one soul had come looking for me. You know what's funny? I didn't even plan to speak at the wedding. I wasn't going to make some big speech or try to steal her spotlight. I showed up to support her, smile for pictures, say congratulations like a good big brother. But apparently, that wasn't enough. Let me back up. My sister, Emily, is 25, the golden child. Always has been. Always will be. Growing up, she was the kid with the tiaras, the tantrums, and the full-blown I want it now attitude. And my parents, they applauded it. They called it drive or ambition. I got the hand-me-downs, the lectures, the Alex. You're older, you should know better. She once got a car on her 16th birthday because she cried when I got a used one 2 years earlier. No joke. She wailed for hours in the driveway. Guess what happened? Brand new convertible. Red. With a bow? Me. I got a pat on the back and a reminder that fair isn't always equal. God. I hate that phrase. So when Emily's wedding came around, I knew what to expect. I wasn't going to be in the spotlight. I wasn't going to give a toast. And I definitely wasn't going to be part of the wedding party. That was fine. I wasn't bitter. I'd accepted my role in the family long ago. But what I didn't expect was to be erased. No name at the family table. No seat with the cousins. Or even the aunts and uncles. Not even a spot on the printed seating chart. I had to ask one of the event staff where to sit. She hesitated, tight smile. Eyes scanning the list, then gently pointed to a small, round table by the hallway entrance. I think you're here. Here. As in, outside. As in, invisible. As in, unwelcome. There wasn't even a centerpiece on the table. Just a single chair and a half-used candle. I think I saw a scuff mark on the tablecloth where someone had previously spilled champagne. And that's when I realized this wasn't an oversight. It was a message. At first, I laughed. Like an actual belly laugh. I thought, okay. Maybe someone screwed up. Maybe they added a last-minute +1 and had to reshuffle. But then I remembered. Emily is a control freak. She plans everything. Down to the flavor of the macarons and the shade of ivory in the table runners. This was no accident. This was her saying, know your place. And I knew exactly where to find her. The bridal suite. I walked through the hall, past white hydrangeas and rented glamour. Trying not to fume, every step was a reminder. This wasn't just a party. It was a declaration. When I finally spotted her surrounded by champagne glasses, bridesmaids giggling, Mom adjusting her veil, she greeted me like I was a UPS guy. Oh. Hey. You made it. I held up my place card. Quick question. Why is my seat not in the reception hall? She blinked. Giggled. Then shrugged like it was nothing. Oh. That. Yeah. We had to move a few things around last minute. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a casual brush off. Like I was asking why the napkins weren't folded into swans. We had to prioritize close family, she said, fixing her lipstick. I am close family, I thought. Before I could say it, my mom chimed in, her voice sugar-sweet like always. Alex, don't make a scene. It's Emily's special day. And there it was. The line I'd heard my whole life. Don't make a scene. Translation. Swallow it. Be quiet. Make yourself smaller so others can shine. But this time, something in me cracked. I didn't yell. Didn't throw the card in anyone's face. I just stood there, absorbing it. And then Emily sealed the deal. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Well, you're not really immediate family anymore. Are you?" I swear to you, I felt my ears ring. That line, it landed like a slap, like ice water down the spine. She smiled and went back to adjusting her earrings. I turned to my mom. Nothing. She just sipped champagne like it was iced tea on a patio. And that's when someone else entered the picture. Someone I'd only met once before. Linda Ferguson, Emily's new mother-in-law. She strolled up like a debutante who'd had one too many mimosas. Tight dress. High hair. Teeth so white they practically glowed. "Oh, you must be Alex," she purred. We were wondering who that sad little seat in the hallway was for. I froze. She smirked, took a slow sip of her drink, and said, "You know how weddings are. Only the most important people get the best seats." And just like that, it all clicked. This wasn't random. This wasn't an oops. This was orchestrated. She was enjoying this. So was Emily. I had been deliberately placed at the edge not just of the room, but of the entire damn family. But what they didn't know is that I know things. Things Emily never wanted her mother-in-law to hear. Secrets. Opinions. Text messages. And at that moment, as I stood between a coat rack and a champagne tower, I realized something. They thought I'd just sit there quietly, smile politely, eat the dry chicken, clap during speeches. They forgot who they raised. They forgot I grew up watching this circus, and I learned from the best. So, no, I didn't make a scene. I made an entrance. With the truth, but we'll get there. Because the real story, it didn't start at the wedding. It started way before that. With a used car, a stupid tiara, and a family that never saw me. If you want to understand why I didn't leave quietly, why I didn't just brush it off as a seating mistake, you need to understand the Harper family's hierarchy. Because in my family, love wasn't given. It was distributed on a merit system no one explained. And I never seemed to pass. Emily was born 3 years after me. From day one, she glowed. Blonde curls, dimples, perfect baby. By age 4, she had a tiara collection and a fan club. By 10, she was choreographing backyard concerts where I could only participate if I agreed to play her backup dancer or the villain who gets booed. It sounds cute now until you realize our parents never corrected her. In fact, they encouraged it. "You should be proud." Mom would say, "Your sister's got charisma." Yeah. And a chokehold on the household. Meanwhile, I was the designated mature one. At age 7, I was helping Dad with taxes. At 10, I was babysitting Emily so Mom could get some wine with the girls. I got good grades, kept my head down, didn't cause problems. My reward. Don't get cocky. Alex, you're not a genius. When I got into UW Seattle with partial scholarship, my parents said, "Well, it's not Yale, but it's something." Emily once passed a high school science test with a D+, and Mom threw her a cupcake party. By the time I was in college, I had learned to emotionally detach. Family gatherings became performances. I played my part. Sit at the edge of the table. Compliment Emily's hair. Nod when Dad made jokes about millennials. Smile when Mom told relatives. Emily's the social one. Alex is just private. But there's a difference between being private and being erased. I moved out after college, got a job in IT, started building my own quiet life. I wasn't rich. I wasn't flashy, but I was free. I didn't come home often. Every visit was like walking into an old sitcom that no longer needed me in the cast. The role of older brother had been recast as occasional visitor with questionable lifestyle choices. Emily, meanwhile, had climbed the PR world. She got a job in Austin, hosted Instagram perfect brunches, started dating a man named Carter Tall, bland, always in a Patagonia vest. He came from a family with money, Southern money. His mom, Linda, was the kind of woman who called herself a Christian entrepreneur and said things like, "We pray before we invest." When Emily got engaged, it was the royal announcement, photos in matching outfits, drone footage of the proposal, family group chat lit up for days. Me, I found out when Mom forwarded me the announcement with no message. I still showed up. I RSVP'd on time, booked my own hotel. I even offered to help pay for some of the wedding expenses, something Emily conveniently forgot when choosing table placements. But I didn't do it for recognition. I did it for decency. Because for all their flaws, I still thought, maybe they'll see me. Maybe this time, I won't feel like a stranger at my own family's celebration. Spoiler alert, they didn't, and I did. 2 weeks before the wedding, I called Mom to ask about the plans. "So, what's the dress code? Is there a schedule or anything I should know?" She sighed like I was bothering her. "Well, it's formal. Ceremony's at 4. You're not in the wedding party. So just be there on time." I hesitated. "Right. I just wasn't sure if—" She cut me off. "Alex, don't make this about you. Emily's under a lot of pressure. Just show up, smile, and don't bring any drama." Okay. That line again. Don't make it about you. As if existing, showing up, asking questions was somehow stealing her spotlight. I got off the phone, stared at the wall for a good 5 minutes. My apartment was silent, save for the ticking clock and the hum of my laptop. In that moment, something deep inside me whispered, "You're not a guest. You're a prop." Let's fast forward to the rehearsal dinner, held at a restaurant where the cheapest entree was $48. The atmosphere reeked of lavender oil diffusers and generational wealth. Emily sparkled in a white jumpsuit, surrounded by perfectly curated bridesmaids. I sat at the far end of the long table, between an out-of-town cousin and someone's fiancé I'd never met. Nobody introduced me. When Dad raised his glass to toast Emily and Carter, he said, "To the light of our lives, the child who brought us joy from the day she was born." I don't think anyone noticed when I lowered my head. Afterward, I slipped out early. No one stopped me. Not even Emily. Now let's talk about the wedding gift. Because this matters. I gave her a photo frame. Nothing flashy, but inside was a restored photo of us as kids. She's maybe 5. I'm 8. We're sitting on the backyard swing, covered in popsicle stains, laughing. I had it scanned, retouched, printed on archival paper, and wrote a short note inside. For when things were simple, love. I handed it to the wedding planner when I arrived. The gift table overflowed with gold-trimmed envelopes, Tiffany bags, luxury kitchen appliances. Mine was the only one without a logo. Later, I saw it shoved in the corner, unopened, still sealed. And then there was my seat. You already know that part. But let me tell you one more thing. The tablecloth on my assigned table had a wine stain near the edge. Faint, but there. And on the chair next to mine, which was empty, of course someone had left a crumpled napkin. Like it had been a server's break spot before they remembered to clear out. I sat there for 20 minutes. No one came. Not Mom. Not Dad. Certainly not Emily. So I stood up, and I walked toward the ballroom, not with a plan. Not yet, but with something sharper. Clarity. That's when I saw her. Linda, the matriarch, Queen of Texas etiquette. She was standing by the champagne tower, laughing loudly with her friends. And Emily, right beside her, smiling, like none of this had happened, like I didn't exist. And suddenly, I remembered the text Emily sent me 3 weeks ago, completely unprompted. "Can't stand Linda's voice. She talks like a televangelist on helium. Pray for me. Just one message in a whole thread of complaints about her fiancé's family. The stress. How fake everything felt. And I realized something. I had leverage. I knew the real Emily. And now, so would Linda. I didn't go in with a plan. Not yet. But I had fuel. And in families like mine, fuel burns fast when secrets are oxygen. Linda was still chatting by the champagne tower, holding court like she owned the venue. Big hair. Bigger earrings. She laughed a little too hard at something. Touched Emily's arm like they were best friends already. I knew that touch. I'd seen it before. It wasn't affection, it was possession. Dressed up in pearls and French tips, I stepped closer. Heart steady. Face neutral. The music from the ballroom swelled behind me, some overplayed Ed Sheeran song, but in my head, it was silent. When she turned to face me, I smiled. Not wide. Not fake. Just enough to be disarming. "Oh, Alex," she said. Like I was a busboy with good teeth. "So nice of you to join us." I didn't correct her tone. Didn't bite. I just said, "It's a beautiful ceremony. Linda, you really helped make this special." That made her stand a little taller. "Why? Thank you." I told Emily from the start, this isn't just a wedding. It's a launch. First impressions are forever. Emily, standing beside her, glanced at me quickly. A flicker of discomfort, a shift in her stance. I leaned in just enough conspiratorial, brotherly, calm. Well, I'm just glad they're pulling it off. Considering how stressed me been about, I paused. Linda blinked. About what? I let the pause stretch, then smiled like it was nothing. "Oh, just wedding jitters. You know how it is." She said, "You're intense, but only because you care." The air changed. Emily froze. Linda turned, ever so slightly. "I'm sorry," she said, tight smile holding steady. She said what? I chuckled. Held up my hands. "Don't worry. She didn't mean anything by it. I just told her that having a mother-in-law so hands-on might be a challenge at first, but she'd learn to love it." Emily's face drained 2 shades. She opened her mouth, but Linda held up a manicured finger. No. No. Let him speak." I shrugged. "That's all. Honestly, I think she was just nervous about appearances." That word landed like a dart. Linda nodded slowly. Lips pursed. I stepped back. "Well," I said, "I'll let you two chat. I think I saw someone trying to use the hallway table as a coat check again." And then I walked off. Not fast. Just smooth. Like nothing had happened. But something had. I didn't need to yell or cause a scene. I just lit a match and dropped it in the wrong place. Let the fire figure itself out. Back at my table. The hallway buzzed with oblivious guests. A toddler cried nearby. A groomsman was checking his breath in the hallway mirror. Someone's jacket slipped off the rack and landed next to my foot. Still, no one had come to sit with me. Still no word from Mom or Dad. I checked my phone. No texts. And that's when I started to remember. Not just what Emily said in that message about Linda, but everything she'd said over the past year. I scrolled back through our texts. Carter's family is so stuck up. I had to Google what escargot even is. Linda literally corrected my posture during brunch. "Help! I'm marrying into a Republican cult. Alex, pray harder." I had receipts. Not just for Linda, but for everything. Suddenly, the idea took shape. This doesn't have to be petty. I thought, it can be strategic. But first, I needed to test the waters. So I walked over to the gift table. Quietly, my photo frame was still there. Still unopened. Still tucked in the corner like a mistake. I picked it up. Turned it over in my hands. The wrapping was a deep green, Emily's favorite color as a kid. There was a tag. "To Emily and Carter. For your first home. Love." I looked at it for a moment. Then took out a pen and added one more line. Happy seating. Set it back down. Didn't tape it. Didn't adjust the ribbon. I wanted it to be found. I wanted her to open it later. See that old photo of us as kids, swinging in the sun, and wonder what the hell I meant by that note. That's what she always did. Second-guess meanings she didn't understand. Because she never actually listened to me. Just like Mom. Speaking of, right on cue, I saw her. Diane Harper. My mother. She was walking toward me, heels clacking across the hardwood floor, glass of white wine in hand. She had her fixer face on, that glossy smile she used whenever Emily was upset, or when guests were around and Dad made one of his off-color jokes. Alex, she chirped, like nothing had happened. How are you enjoying everything? I gave her the kindest version of my deadpan. Well, I can't say the hallway doesn't have atmosphere. She frowned. Oh, honey. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic would be standing up in the middle of the toast and announcing that I'd been demoted to family adjacent. I'm just observing. She rolled her eyes. Took a sip. You know how Emily gets. She wanted it to be simple. Simple, I repeated. By removing me. She sighed. You live so far away. You're not married. You're not really part of the day-to-day anymore. I stared at her. And it hit me not for the first time but deeper than ever. They don't see me as family unless I'm convenient. Unless I'm paired up, smiling. Predictable. Unless I fit the picture they want to show the world. In their eyes, I was a loose thread. A wrinkle in the narrative. I didn't belong in the family photo anymore. I could have argued. Could have said, I helped pay for this. I flew here. I tried. But what's the point of explaining gravity to people who live on the moon? So I just smiled. You're right, I said. Her face relaxed. Really? She asked. I nodded. Yeah. I guess I'm not immediate family anymore. And with that, I walked away. Back to the ballroom. But not to sit. I had work to do. Because if they wanted to treat me like an outsider, fine. I'd act like one. From here on out, I was no longer playing the big brother. I was writing the story. And every story needs a turning point. They say revenge is best served cold. But I disagree. Sometimes, it's better warm, slow-cooked. Precise, marinated in clarity. As I walked back toward the ballroom, I wasn't just the rejected brother anymore. I was the author of a new chapter. And I knew exactly how it would begin. My first move, the guest list. I'd noticed earlier that the wedding planner was using a tablet to manage things seating. Speeches. Who had arrived. Who hadn't. I also knew the planner was young, overworked, and deeply distracted by a groomsman she'd been flirting with since noon. I found her near the back hallway, whispering into her headset with one hand while tapping furiously with the other. Hey, I said gently, holding up a bottle of water. You looked parched. She blinked. Startled. Oh my God. Thank you. I've had like 0 breaks. I smiled. I've worked events before. Total chaos. I figured you could use a second. She took it, sighing, and dropped into a nearby chair. That tablet's your whole brain. Huh? I nodded at it. She chuckled. Yup. Guest list. Seating chart. Speeches. DJQ, if this thing dies, I die. I offered a sympathetic laugh. Mind if I check it? I think my name's still listed wrong. I was supposed to be seated near my cousin. She waved dismissively. Yeah. Totally. It's open. She handed it over without a second thought. And just like that, I had access. Now, I didn't change my seat, not yet. That would have been petty. Too small. But I took screenshots of the original chart, of the final one, and of the last-minute adjustment request from Emily. Move Alex Harper to hallway overflow. No +1. He's not really part of the main family circle anymore. Keep it clean. No drama. That line, No drama. I would have laughed if it didn't feel like a paper cut to the soul. I airdropped the screenshots to myself, returned the tablet, thanked the planner, then slipped away. Next, I needed an accomplice. Every story needs a wild card. Mine was Aunt Marilyn. She's my dad's older sister. Late 60s. Widowed. No filter. Smokes menthols in secret and has a sixth sense for family dysfunction. She'd always liked me, called me the only Harper with a working brain. I found her sitting alone with a bourbon and her cane, wearing a velvet wrap and watching people like a hawk. "Marilyn," I said, "you look like you're plotting." She smirked. "I plot better when someone hands me a reason." "Got one?" I sat beside her, quietly slid my phone over, let her read the screenshots. She didn't blink, didn't gasp. She just nodded slowly. "That little snake. I'm not looking to burn the building down," I whispered. "Just light a candle in the right direction." She took a slow sip. "You know," she said, "Linda's giving a speech in 20 minutes. Family welcome. Blessings. All that southern pageantry crap." I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah." She smiled. "Would be a shame if something unsavory came up during it." 15 minutes later, everything was in motion. The ballroom lights dimmed. The string quartet stopped. A spotlight hit the stage near the sweetheart table. Emily and Carter were seated like prom royalty, him stiff in his tux, her glowing like a Pinterest ad. Linda stepped up to the mic. Beaming, she launched into her speech. How blessed they were. How God brought this union together. How Emily had found her true family in Texas. That line, that one? Aunt Marilyn leaned toward me. "You sure you don't want to go nuclear?" I shook my head. "No, just surgical." Then I stood up, walked toward the DJ booth. The DJ looked surprised. Can I help you?" I smiled. Emily wanted to surprise Linda with a reading from a text message she sent me last month. The DJ hesitated. "Is this real?" I showed him the screenshot. It read, "Linda literally thinks I'm gonna let her redecorate our kitchen. I swear if she calls it blessed one more time, I'm eloping." He blinked, looked at the mic, then handed it over. I tapped it once. "Hi. Sorry to interrupt." Heads turned. Emily's face dropped. "I just wanted to share a little quote. Something Emily texted me while planning this beautiful, holy, family-blessed wedding." I paused, and then I read it. Every word. Slowly, clearly. Gasps. A few laughs. A full-body wince from Carter. Linda's face. Stone. Marble. Ice. I smiled. And to quote Emily again, no drama. Mic drop. Literally. I walked off stage. No applause. Just stunned silence. Emily bolted up, trying to salvage it. Alex is joking. He's always had this weird sense of humor. But no one laughed. Because here's the thing. It wasn't funny. It was true. And the truth always knows how to land. As I passed Marilyn, she clinked her glass gently toward me and whispered, "Checkmate. Sweetheart." But the best was yet to come. Because Carter, he didn't look angry. He looked curious. And when your own fiancé's first instinct is to wonder what else you've been hiding, that's when the story really begins to unravel. You could hear a fork drop. "Actually, you did?" Someone at table 3 fumbled their dessert spoon in stunned silence. For one glorious second, the ballroom felt like a paused movie. Every guest froze in mid-blink, mid-breath, mid-fake smile. Except Carter. The groom didn't move a muscle. Didn't look at me. Didn't look at Emily. He just stared forward like someone had unplugged his software. Emily was already spinning fast. She grabbed the mic off the floor like it owed her money. "Okay." That was totally taken out of context. She chirped, her voice half a pitch too high. "Alex likes to joke. But we all love Linda. Obviously. Right?" Carter. Carter blinked. Slowly, Then he turned and looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Now remember when I said I wasn't going to burn the place down? I meant it. But sometimes the wind helps carry a spark farther than expected. The DJ, bless his gossipy heart, leaned over to me. Want me to cue the toast slides? He asked. Wait, slides? Yeah, he whispered. Your mom uploaded this PowerPoint earlier. Family memories and stuff. Supposed to run during dessert. Oh, perfect. Sure, I said. But maybe, let's start with slide 7. Because I'd already seen them earlier when I had the planner's tablet. And slide 7, that was my favorite. A group photo from Christmas 3 years ago. Big tree. Matching pajamas. Me dead center. Except someone Emily. Based on the file's metadata had photoshopped me out. Badly. Like, smudged background and floating orphan hand badly. I guess she thought no one would notice. Because people don't notice what's been erased unless you point right at it. And now, we were pointing. The first slide blinked on. Cue sentimental piano music. Laughter in the early ones. Baby photos. Emily covered in cake frosting. Carter playing t-ball. Then came slide 7. And sure enough, a weirdly warped family photo with a suspicious gap between mom and dad. Is that? Someone whispered. Oh my God. A cousin muttered. That's Alex's sleeve. Aunt Marilyn said. Way too loudly. Emily's voice cracked. Let's maybe skip ahead. Too late. Slide 8. A group hiking trip with me cut out again. Literally, like, scissors and white border. Slide 9. Her bridal shower, where everyone tagged on Instagram, except me. But I was in the reflection of the mirror in the background. I'd become a ghost. A haunting. And suddenly, the entire room realized it. I wasn't just left out. I had been deliberately erased. Over and over. The guests didn't say much. But their faces did. Carter finally stood. His voice wasn't angry, it was quiet. Did you really Photoshop your own brother out of family photos? Emily snapped. Why is this happening now? He didn't answer. He just walked off the stage. Let's be clear. I didn't plan for things to unravel this fast. But momentum's a funny thing. You push one domino, and suddenly you're standing in a cathedral of collapse. Still, I had one more play. See? The wedding wasn't just a ceremony, it was a brand launch. Emily had hired a videographer, a social media manager, a whole PR firm to package her new life. She wanted a highlight reel. A perfect, Instagram-able love story. And guess who had access to the shared wedding drive? That's right. She sent me the link by mistake a month ago, assuming I wouldn't use it. But I had uploaded a single video, unlisted, hidden, time-stamped 1:03. A screen recording of a FaceTime she'd made in April. Drunk, ranting to me. If I hear Carter say we one more time, I'm going to throw my ring in the garbage disposal. I don't want a husband, I want my own life. This whole wedding thing is for Mom and Linda. They need the photos. I need the out. Her exact words. I'd save them. Not because I planned to use them, but because, deep down, I think I knew how fake it all was. Now, I wasn't going to broadcast that. I'm not heartless. But I did leave the video queued on an iPad backstage, a very visible iPad, with a very suspicious title, Behind the Veil, MP4. I left it propped open. Lit. Obvious. I don't know who pressed play, but someone did. Because 15 minutes later, I saw a bridesmaid dart into the hallway crying, then Linda, then Carter, Emily. She stayed frozen. Frozen at the sweetheart table, surrounded by untouched desserts and untouched people. I stepped outside for air. The cold hit my lungs like honesty. And that's when Dad came out. I hadn't seen him all day, not really. He stood next to me for a long minute before speaking. You did all this? I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. Then he said something I'll never forget. I never wanted to pick sides. I turned to him. You did. He didn't argue. Didn't apologize. Just sighed. Then walked back inside. That was when the doors opened. Carter stepping out, suit jacket off. No tie. He looked me in the eye. I guess, he said, some people only show their true face when the pictures start. Then he said the wildest thing. You want to get a drink? Not a truce. Not a friendship. But maybe an understanding. And that's when Emily came out. Face red. Breath shallow. Why? She asked. I looked her dead in the eye. You deleted me. So I reminded you I exist. She blinked. Speechless. And then she said, barely audible. Was it worth it? I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just said, we're about to find out. The wedding ended early. Not with a kiss or a send-off under sparklers, but with a silent migration of guests who suddenly remembered they had early flights or headaches or babysitters to relieve. By 8:15 p.m., the ballroom looked like an abandoned movie set. Half-eaten salmon, overturned flutes, a tiered cake untouched except for one lopsided slice. Emily was nowhere to be seen. Carter had disappeared too, and rumor had it he wasn't going with her to the hotel. Linda. She'd taken a Xanax in the parking lot and was yelling at the valet about emotional vandalism. But I sat quietly in the hallway. Again. Same coat rack. Same fire extinguisher. But this time, I wasn't banished, I chose it. Because some spots become sacred once you survive them. I looked down at my gift, the green-wrapped frame I'd placed on the table earlier. Someone had returned it to me. The tag had been ripped off. No note. Just the photo inside. Peeking through the gap in the paper now. Me and Emily. Age 10 and 7. Backyard sprinkler. Soaked. Laughing. Before anyone started choosing sides. A door creaked open. Footsteps approached. Carter. His tie was gone. Shirt untucked. Hair slightly disheveled. But his expression was calm. Not shell-shocked, just tired in a very specific way. Like someone who'd finally stopped pretending the script made sense. Mind if I sit? He asked. I nodded. He sat beside me. Knees bent. Elbows on thighs like a man waiting for a train that already left. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he said, you know, I always thought she was too polished. I looked at him. Emily. He nodded. Like, overly produced. But I figured that's just how people are when they grow up in households like this. He paused. Then asked, was she always like that? I exhaled. No, I said quietly. She used to be messy, loud, wildly curious. She once tried to sell homemade glitter perfume door to door, nearly blinded the neighbor's cat. He chuckled. Then his voice dropped low. Honest. When I asked her about you, why you weren't more involved, she said you'd pulled away, that you didn't really support us. I blinked. Of course she did. And you believed that? I asked. He shrugged. I wanted to. Another pause. Then he looked over. I don't think I'm going back with her tonight. I raised an eyebrow. It's your wedding day. He laughed. Bitterly. Exactly. Then he stood, and as he walked away, he said, almost as a throwaway line, she doesn't see people. She edits them. Inside, the cleanup had begun. The planner, mortified. The servers, stone-faced. My mom, sitting alone at a corner table, hands folded, face pale. I approached her slowly. She didn't look up. Mom, I said. She didn't answer. You knew she cut me out of the photos, didn't you? Still no reply. Why didn't you say anything? Finally, she spoke. Her voice small, ashen. Because it was easier than fighting her. That landed harder than anything else. I wanted to be angry. But I wasn't. I was done. I turned to go. But before I reached the door, she called after me. Alex. I stopped. She looked up. I'm sorry. I nodded. Because I believed her. But I also knew she wasn't apologizing for the hallway seat. She was apologizing for something deeper. For letting me be invisible until I forced them to see me. I stepped outside. Night had fallen. Air cool. Wind soft. The smell of leftover roses wilting in the dumpster. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the old seating card. The one that read, Overflow. Hallway no +1. I smiled. Folded it once. Then again. Then slipped it into the side of the wedding cake. Like a little garnish. A quiet signature. Because sometimes you don't need to scream to be remembered. Sometimes all it takes is presence. And a perfectly placed reminder that you were never the problem. My phone buzzed. A message. From Emily. You ruined everything. Hope you're happy. I stared at it for a long time. Then typed back. You erased me first. Sent. No emoji. No closure. Just truth. Behind me, the last of the guests were leaving. Aunt Marilyn passed by with her cane. Gave me a subtle wink. She didn't stop walking. Didn't say a word. But I knew she'd tell the story. Probably embellish it. Turn it into legend. And honestly, let her. Because legends last longer than seating charts. I took one last look at the venue. Glowing lights. Wilting flowers. Spilled champagne. A cathedral of denial now empty. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own story. I felt real. Solid. Whole. 2 weeks later, I got a wedding favor in the mail. It was late. Probably an oversight from the planner's mailing list. A tiny box. Satin ribbon. Monogrammed tag. Inside, a miniature candle labeled Forever Starts Now. The scent. Vanilla regret. With a hint of burned bridges. I laughed. Set it on my windowsill. Didn't light it. It felt symbolic enough just collecting dust. Emily didn't reach out again. She posted a long, carefully edited caption on Instagram 3 days after the wedding. A beautiful day full of joy, laughter, and unexpected surprises. Comments turned off. Carter deleted all his posts by the following week. Then, a quiet announcement slipped into my inbox from Aunt Marilyn's subject line. FYI. Separation. No fanfare. Just the fallout unraveling quietly behind closed doors. I didn't feel joy. Not really. I didn't want her miserable. I just wanted her to feel something besides entitlement. Maybe she finally had. People asked me if I regretted it. If I felt guilty for ruining the wedding. But here's what no one sees. The years before the hallway seat, the messages left on read, the family photos where I didn't even make the frame, the calls that stopped once I said no, the jokes made at my expense because I didn't marry, didn't have kids, didn't follow their script. That wedding was never mine to ruin. I just stopped pretending it was sacred. And here's something no one tells you about being the black sheep. You don't have to dye your wool. They'll color you how they want, no matter how quietly you live. So at some point, you stop trying to bleach yourself into belonging. You wear the contrast. You become the story they can't quite explain at Christmas. My mother called on a Sunday afternoon. Her voice was soft, cautious. She asked how I'd been. Said she missed my laugh. Then she asked a strange question. Do you still have that photo? You and Emily in the sprinkler. I said yes. She paused. Then, would you send me a copy? I didn't ask why. Didn't press. Just said, sure. And after we hung up, I made 2 prints. One for her, and one for me, framed on my bookshelf next to a copy of The Velveteen Rabbit, because it felt like a fitting reminder. You become real when you're loved, even if you've been roughed up first. As for me, I didn't go no contact. Didn't cut ties. I just started choosing where I put my seat. No more hallways. No more overflow. Now, I build my own table. Small. Sturdy. With chairs that don't wobble when the truth sits down. Sometimes I wonder if Emily ever looks at those wedding photos and notices the gaps. Not just me, but the smiles. How forced they look. How hollow the center feels when the wrong people are holding hands. Maybe one day she'll call. Maybe not. But either way, I'm not waiting for the invitation anymore. I RSVP'd to my own life. And if you're watching this wondering whether you're the Alex in your story, let me say this. You are not too sensitive. You are not too much. You are not overreacting for needing a seat at the table. You just finally noticed the hallway's cold. And maybe it's time to stand up. So go ahead. Be the ghost that haunts the story until it's told right. Be the one who turns overflow into a moment no one forgets. Light your candle. Or don't. But always, always, remember your name? Because revenge might feel good. But reclaiming your seat, that's divine. Have you ever been made to feel invisible by your own family? Drop your story in the comments. Like this video if you've ever had to draw a line, and hit subscribe. Because this isn't just my story, it's ours. And we're just getting started. Story 2. My name is Marcus Bennett. I'm 32 years old. Live alone in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Atlanta. And up until very recently, I was the emergency contact, the unofficial ATM, the human safety net for my entire family. And when I say entire, I mean everyone. My mom, Brenda, who texts me about her rent on the 28th of every month, but never about my well-being. My dad, Charles, who hasn't paid a car insurance bill since 2018 because I set it on autopay through my own account. He calls that a family favor. My older sister, Kendra, whose wedding photos, all covered by me, right down to the personalized cocktail napkins. My younger brother, Jordan, who just needed a little boost to get out of our hometown and into a job in Atlanta. And don't get me started on my cousin Raven and her long-term boyfriend, Darius, who somehow show up to every family event despite never once hosting so much as a cookout. And for a long time, I thought that was normal. I thought being the reliable one was a badge of honor, some kind of moral promotion. When you grow up in a family that struggles, you tell yourself that once you make it out, you'll make it better for everyone. That you'll be the one to break the cycle. And I did. I got a job in tech. I worked late. I budgeted. I skipped vacations so I could help mom stay in her senior complex. She loves that little garden. I ignored my own student loans so I could make sure dad didn't lose his car when he got laid off. I told myself this was love. This was what love looked like. Until my birthday. My 32nd birthday wasn't going to be anything big. Not some flashy rooftop affair or club night. I wanted it to be simple, just a small dinner. A private room at a local Italian place I'd been to once and remembered for its warmth and real candles on the table. I paid $400 up front to reserve it. Non-refundable. I even called ahead to make sure they'd have a small chocolate cake ready with my name on it. Nothing too sweet. No happy birthday, Marcus, and fancy frosting. Just quiet. Cozy. Intentional. I picked the restaurant because it was central. No one could say it was too far. I sent invites on Google Calendar. Texted reminders a week out. Then again 2 days before. It wasn't even about gifts or attention. I just wanted to laugh with people I've carried on my back for the past decade. I wore the blazer my mom gave me last Christmas. The one that still smelled faintly of the cedar closet she stores gifts in. I got there 15 minutes early. I checked with the host. Yes. We've got your room ready. Yes. The cake's in the fridge. Yes. Your party of 8. And then I waited. At first, I didn't flinch. I grew up around people who are always late. Running on Thompson time. My dad used to joke. 15 minutes. Maybe traffic. 30 minutes. Maybe someone had to stop for diapers. 45 minutes. I ordered a drink and scrolled through my phone. Still smiling. Still hopeful. Still telling myself, they're just late. They'll come. Around the 55-minute mark, my stomach started to turn. Not hunger shame. The kind that presses on your lungs. Not your belly. The waiter came over. Polite smile too soft for comfort. Would you like to go ahead and order? I shook my head. Give it 10 more minutes. He nodded and walked off. That pity smile burned more than any insult. That's when my phone buzzed. Instagram. I opened it. Not thinking. Just instinct. And there it was. A photo of my sister Kendra, her husband Tom, my mom, my dad, Jordan, Raven, and even Darius all grinning around a steakhouse table lit with overhead Edison bulbs. The caption, "Family night. Grateful for the real ones." The real ones. I stared. I didn't even scroll. I just stared at that word. Real? Like I was imaginary. Like I didn't count. My hands felt numb. I could hear the clink of cutlery around me. Laughter from the other private room next door. I hadn't realized how quiet my table was, just flickering candles, a sweating glass, and 8 untouched sets of silverware. The comments made it worse. My aunt, missing Marcus, and Kendra, bless her heart, replied. He had his own plans tonight. My own plans. My plans were to sit here with them, the same people I've lifted, supported, saved. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stood up, left $50 on the table, more than the drink I barely touched, and walked out. The host gave me a tight-lipped nod as I passed. I think he knew. I think he'd seen it before. People don't book private rooms and leave with only one chair pulled out. I drove home with both hands shaking on the wheel. Somewhere on that short ride through Midtown Atlanta, my sadness curdled into something else entirely. Clarity. Because here's the thing. It wasn't the first time. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a miscommunication. This wasn't, "Oh, we forgot to text you." No. This was deliberate. Just like last Christmas, when the family dinner mysteriously got moved to Jordan's house, and I showed up to an empty apartment, just like Kendra's bridal shower, where she thanked everyone who made this day possible, even her hairstylist, but skipped the guy who paid for the cake and the decorations. I had brushed it all off. Told myself I was being sensitive, that maybe I was imagining it. But tonight, with a $400 receipt in my inbox and a candlelit table I'd set for 8 but filled alone, tonight was proof. I wasn't imagining anything. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was being excluded. Erased. And something inside me clicked. If you've ever felt like the reliable one, the one who gives and gives until there's nothing left for yourself, hit that like button. Drop a comment if you've ever sat alone while the people you loved celebrated somewhere else. Because this was just the beginning. Growing up, I was never the loud one. I wasn't the funny kid, or the baby of the family, or the dramatic one who slammed doors and said things they didn't mean. I was the one who stayed quiet. The one who cleaned up after everyone else's mess. The one who learned how to survive by being useful. If someone needed a ride, I had gas in my tank. If rent was short, I had just enough to cover. If emotions ran high, I was the calm voice on the phone at 2 a.m. People say love is action, and for years, I gave my love in silence, through money, through problem solving, through always showing up. But silence is a funny thing. It can be interpreted as strength or as permission. And in my family, it became permission. Let me backtrack a little. I didn't come from wealth. We weren't destitute. But we lived check to check. Food stamps some months. Eviction threats a couple times. A lot of don't answer the door days. My dad, Charles, worked factory jobs until his back gave out. My mom, Brenda, cleaned houses until she started forgetting clients' names and her knees refused to cooperate. We all learned hustle. But hustle came with exhaustion. And when I got my first salaried job in tech support after college, it was like I had crossed some invisible threshold. Suddenly, I wasn't just Marcus, I was the one who made it out. And that came with a cost. At first, it felt good. I could help. I wanted to help. Paying mom's rent. No problem. Setting up auto pay for dad's car. Done. Sending a Venmo to Jordan when he just needed to hold $300 real quick. Easy. It felt like I was fulfilling some sacred duty, like I was honoring the people who got me here. But the thing about family dynamics is, once a role is assigned, people rarely ask if you're okay with it. They just assume you'll keep playing it. And I did. For years. I remember one Thanksgiving, maybe 5 years ago. I brought the turkey, 2 pies, and the sides because Kendra said she didn't have time to cook. Jordan showed up late with nothing but a Bluetooth speaker and his girlfriend of the month. Dad was watching the game, half asleep. Mom kissed me on the cheek and said, "My reliable boy. You always come through." No one asked how I was, if I was dating, if I was tired. I remember thinking, if I didn't show up, would anyone even notice? That thought lodged itself deep quiet, like a splinter under the skin. And over time, little moments made it fester. Like when Kendra got married and had this big slideshow at the reception. Photos of everyone, her with Mom, her with Jordan, even her and Raven playing in a kiddie pool as kids. But not a single photo with me. Never mind that I paid for her flowers, her dress fitting, and the DJ deposit. She gave a teary speech about sisterhood and resilience. I clapped, smiled, and drank my champagne. Or the time Jordan threw a birthday bash and told me, "Oh, I didn't think you'd want to come. It's more of a vibe thing." That vibe didn't include me, apparently, but it did include a $500 DJ I helped him pay for months earlier. It was always small cuts, easy to ignore on their own. But cuts add up, and I carried them all, quietly, until the birthday dinner. That night wasn't a fluke. It was a reveal, a flashing neon sign that screamed, "You're not one of us. You're just the provider." And the most brutal part, I had been complicit in it. I had taught them I was okay being the backup plan, the afterthought, the walking wallet. Not once had I set a boundary. Not once had I said no, because I believed deeply that love meant sacrifice, and that if I just gave enough, eventually, I'd earn a place in their hearts that wasn't conditional. But that's not how it works. Love isn't a transaction. And if it is, then I'd been grossly underpaid. After I left that restaurant, I went home and sat in the dark for a long time. Not thinking, just feeling embarrassment, anger, a kind of hollow sadness I didn't have words for. Then I got up, opened my closet, and pulled out a small envelope I hadn't touched in years. Inside were 2 movie tickets from 2016, a family night I'd planned back then, bought in advance for all of us. No one came. Jordan said he forgot. Kendra had a hair appointment. Mom and Dad said they were tired. I never threw those tickets away. I told myself I'd use them for scrap paper one day, but really, I kept them as proof. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining the pattern. That envelope, those tickets, they were my first breadcrumb. And now they felt like the start of a trail. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I opened a spreadsheet. Not for work, for them. I wrote down every expense I'd covered in the past 5 years. Rent payments, insurance, medical emergencies, wedding deposits, car repairs, cell phone plans, groceries, bail money, you name it. The total, over $37,000. I stared at that number for a long time, and then I thought, what could I have done with that money? A house down payment, a year off, therapy, a trip to Italy. Hell, even a new car. But more than that, what could I have built inside myself if I wasn't constantly pouring into everyone else? That was the day the plan began. Not for revenge. Not really. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted to stop hurting myself. So I set a date. A quiet revolution. No confrontations. No family meetings. No tearful phone calls. Just boundaries. Just silence. And that, right there, that's when things started to shift. Because when the provider stops providing, people notice. When the glue starts to unstick, the whole thing unravels. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You'll want to hear what happened next. You'll want to hear about the texts, the voicemails, the frantic calls, the one person I didn't expect who finally saw me. But I'll get to that. Let's just say silence isn't passive. It's powerful. And when used right, it speaks louder than any scream. The first message came at 7:43 a.m. The following Tuesday. Mom. Morning, baby. Rent didn't go through. Can you check your bank? I stared at it, still half asleep. The light from my phone too harsh in the early morning dark. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even curious. It was casual. Like she was talking about the weather. I didn't respond. At 10:06 a.m., she followed up. Your sister says everything was fine last night. You still coming to church this Sunday? That one made me sit up. Not because of the church invite, she only sends those when she feels something's off. But because of how quickly the narrative was being rewritten. Kendra says everything was fine. You mean the dinner I wasn't invited to? I tossed my phone across the bed. By lunchtime, the silence had started to rattle the windows. Dad called. Twice. No voicemail, just those 2 missed calls that sit like pebbles in your shoe. Then a third call at 3:24 p.m. This time he left a message. Hey Marcus? Listen, I don't know what's going on, but my car insurance just bounced. They're saying I'm not covered. Can you fix that? Call me back. All right. Still no mention of the birthday. No. How was your night? Just straight to fix it. That was the moment I felt something new bubbling up. Not anger. Relief. Because I was finally seeing it for what it was. Not family. But dependency. That night, I cooked for myself. Really cooked. Not the usual frozen pizza or takeout noodles. I made roasted chicken with garlic butter, asparagus, and mashed sweet potatoes. Played jazz. Poured myself a glass of wine. Ate on the balcony like someone who belonged to themselves. And for the first time in years, I felt full. Not just from food, but from absence. No buzzing group chat. No urgent bills. No guilt. By Thursday, the group chat lit up. Kendra. Okay. Marcus. Are we really doing this? If you had a problem, you could have said something. Posting that cryptic birthday photo was childish. Cryptic. The photo she was talking about was the one I posted the night of my birthday. A single picture of the untouched chocolate cake. Captioned, Reminder. I'm the one paying rent for my mom and insurance for my dad. No names. No drama. Just facts. Apparently, that was enough to spark panic. Jordan chimed in next. Bro, why you airing stuff on social like some reality show? We could have just talked. I almost laughed out loud. Because I had talked, just not with words. I talked with deposits, with favors, with quiet sacrifices. And not one of them had listened. Now they were listening. Friday morning, I walked into my apartment building and passed by the mailroom. Taped to one of the boxes was a pink slip. Past due notice, Unit 3B. That was my mom's unit. I paused, then kept walking. Part of me wanted to fix it, to step in, to smooth things over. But the stronger part, the part that had sat alone on his birthday, kept moving. That afternoon, something strange happened. A DM request on Instagram. From someone I didn't recognize at first. Cam the waiter. I clicked it. Hey, I was your server the other night at Avellino's. Didn't want to overstep, but I just wanted to say, I've never seen someone sit so still for so long. The way you looked at that cake, I felt it. I hope you're okay. You deserved better. I read it 3 times. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was simple, human. This stranger, this server saw me more clearly than my own family. That message did something to me. It reminded me that not everyone is blind. That maybe, just maybe, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't needy. I was visible. To the right people. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I slept through the night. Saturday morning, I printed something. A single-page spreadsheet, folded into thirds. On the top, 5 years of contributions. Below it, every bill, every payment, every wire transfer, every birthday gift, wedding loan, emergency bailout, final total, $37. 416.9. I didn't write a note. Just folded it, slipped it into a manila envelope, and drove across town. Mom wasn't home. I taped the envelope to her door. No name. No explanation. Just a number. I walked away without looking back. That Sunday came and went. I didn't go to church. Didn't answer the phone. Didn't open the group chat. I cooked again. Watched a movie. Lit a candle. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guilty for being still. Monday morning. Raven called. Now that was unexpected. Raven never calls. She's the cousin who floats in and out of family gatherings like fog. Always smiling. Never committing. The kind of person who disappears when things get messy. So when I saw her name flash on my screen, I hesitated. But something told me to answer. "Hey," she said. Voice low. "I saw your post. I also saw the receipts Mom's been whispering about. Listen, I know I never said it, but thank you. For helping with my dental thing last year, I was embarrassed. And I never repaid you." Silence. "You don't owe me anything," I said. She hesitated. "I think I do. Not just money, but a conversation, if you're up for it." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. It was the most honest moment I'd had with anyone in my family in years. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because as I was getting ready for bed that night, my phone buzzed again. A new voicemail. From Dad. "Marcus, we need to talk. About what you think you're doing." "What I think I'm doing?" "Oh, Dad, I'm doing what I should have done a long time ago. Taking my name off of everything. Especially the parts of me you think you own." I didn't call Dad back. I listened to the voicemail twice. The first time in disbelief. The second in analysis. His tone wasn't confusion or sadness. It was authority. Ownership. Like he was the foreman and I was the worker who suddenly stopped showing up for unpaid overtime. "We need to talk. About what you think you're doing." What I think I'm doing. I was no longer thinking. I was choosing, and that distinction between thinking and choosing is where everything shifted. Tuesday evening. I sat down with a yellow legal pad and a cheap hotel pen that barely worked. It was the same kind of pad Dad used to carry around when I was a kid making to-do lists. Budgeting. Scribbling Bible verses on the corner. On the top, I wrote in capital letters, "Phase 2, the quiet exit." I underlined it twice. I didn't want to destroy anyone. I didn't want revenge. That wasn't the point. What I wanted was accountability. Not in the form of apologies. Those can be faked. I wanted absence. I wanted them to feel my absence so loudly, they couldn't ignore the shape of it. First step. Banking. I logged into the joint account I'd opened for Mom years ago to help her track rent and utilities. Back then, she said she couldn't handle online stuff. So I did it all, set up bill pay. Transferred funds every month like clockwork. This time, I removed my name completely. Set up a notification for any attempts to log back in using my credentials. Changed the email. Disabled auto transfer. Then came Dad's insurance. Same drill. Closed. Disconnected. As I was clicking through, my hands trembled not from fear, but from adrenaline, like a man cutting the last thread of a parachute he didn't ask to wear. And then I turned to the phone. The one I'd been paying for since Jordan cracked his screen back in college. The line that no one ever thanked me for. Except when service went out, I scrolled through Verizon, found his number, and hit suspend line. A warning popped up. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." Click. That Friday, I got a group text from Kendra. Just found out you're cutting everyone off. Nice. You do know Mom's place is going to be reported if rent isn't in by the 10th, right? But hey, happy belated. No, how are you? No, why didn't you say something? Just veiled threat dressed up in sarcasm. I didn't respond. That weekend, I packed 2 bags and booked an Airbnb outside Asheville, North Carolina. No service. No distractions. Just me, the mountains, and the silence I used to be afraid of. On the second night, I sat on the cabin porch, sipping coffee that tasted more like burnt toast than anything else. It didn't matter. The stars made up for it. That's when my phone lit up 1 bar of signal, just enough to let a voicemail slip through. It was from Raven. Hey, I've been thinking. I know you don't owe any of us anything. I don't know. I saw the spreadsheet. I saw the total. I didn't know it was that much. I thought you were just, doing okay. She paused. Anyway, I got a little bonus this month. I'm gonna send you something. Just know I'm not sending it to erase anything. I'm sending it because you deserved better. I sat there holding the phone like it was a live wire. Not because of the money, but because someone, finally, wasn't asking for anything. They were giving. Freely. Even if it was small. It was honest. The next morning, I opened Instagram and posted another story. No words. Just a photo. A pair of used movie tickets, dated 2016, laid across a manila folder labeled Contributions. It was a quiet callback to a younger version of me, one who had once believed showing up would eventually earn him a seat at the table. I didn't tag anyone. Didn't need to. By Monday, everything was cracking. I got a call from Mom around 9 Mom. This time, I picked up. Her voice was lighter than I expected. Almost rehearsed. Hi, baby. Listen, I know you've been going through some things, and I just want you to know we love you. We're family. We don't always get it right. But I stopped her there. Mom, did you know about the dinner? Silence. I asked Kendra to let you know. She said finally. She said you were doing your own thing. You believed that. I don't know what to believe anymore. I let that hang. She sighed. I just don't want things to be like this. Like what? Me finally having boundaries. Another pause. Then a shaky inhale. We needed you. Marcus. I needed you too. Click. I didn't hang up. She did. That night, I walked past the bakery near my building. In the window was a display of chocolate birthday cakes. One of them looked almost identical to mine. Perfect frosting. Smooth edges. Untouched. It felt like a symbol. Frozen in time. A version of me that waited too long. That stayed too quiet. That believed love meant being needed, not being seen. I went home, opened my fridge, took out the last slice of that birthday cake I'd kept in a plastic container out of sheer inertia. I set it on the counter. And for the first time since this all began, I picked up a fork. Not because I was celebrating, but because it was my cake. And I'd decided it was finally okay to enjoy something without permission. But make no mistake, this story wasn't over. Because just as I sat down, my phone buzzed with a text from Kendra. You think this is a win? Just wait. Marcus, you're gonna regret pushing family away. No, I wouldn't. Because what was coming next wasn't regret. It was reckoning. And I was ready for it. Kendra's text sat on my screen like a threat scrawled in red ink. You think this is a win? Just wait. Marcus, you're gonna regret pushing family away. I read it again. Let it sink in. Felt the familiar churn in my stomach, the one that used to make me backtrack. Apologize. Send money out of guilt. But this time, my hands stayed steady. Because when someone warns you about regret, what they're really saying is, I'm losing control. And I don't like it. And that was exactly the point. The following Friday, I walked into my apartment building after work and saw a slip taped to the lobby bulletin board. Community tenants meeting, emergency agenda added. I normally didn't attend those. Too many complaints about trash pickup and loud dogs. But something told me to go. Turns out, my gut was right. At the front of the small conference room was Mrs. Patel, our property manager. She looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her pen, scanning the faces of the dozen or so residents seated in folding chairs. "We have a concerning situation involving Unit 3B," she began. "My mother's unit. Rent has not been paid in nearly 2 months. Attempts to contact the listed payer have failed." She glanced toward me, subtle but sharp. A few heads turned. And that's when Kendra walked in. Heels sharp, hair curled, holding a folder like it was a shield. She took a seat across from me. Didn't nod. Didn't blink. "Mrs. Patel cleared her throat. "Kendra Bennett has offered to assume payment responsibility going forward. But we will require a new leaseholder on file." Kendra stood up. "I'll take care of it," she said. "It's family business." The word family rolled off her tongue like a loaded gun. After the meeting, I stayed behind. Let the others shuffle out. "Mrs. Patel gave me a sympathetic glance but didn't speak. As I turned to leave, Kendra blocked my path in the hallway. "You really gonna watch Mom get evicted?" "Marcus." I looked her dead in the eye. "You watched me eat a birthday dinner alone?" She flinched barely. But I saw it. That was different. "No. It wasn't. You made a choice. So did I." She crossed her arms. "You think cutting people off makes you powerful? You're just bitter." I smiled. A small one. The kind that doesn't reach your eyes. "No. I'm free." She didn't respond. Just walked away, heels clicking like punctuation. That night, I started Phase 3. I logged into a cloud storage account I hadn't touched in years, one I used to keep backup copies of every major financial transaction. Receipts, invoices, screenshots of cash apps, emails confirming payments. It was all there. I organized it, zipped it into a folder, and gave it a name. What Marcus built. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet. But I knew this. I wasn't going to let my story be rewritten. Not by them. Not again. On Sunday, I got a knock at my door. I peered through the peephole. It was Jordan. I hesitated, then opened it. He looked tired. Hoodie. No haircut. Eyes that didn't meet mine. "Hey. Hey." Silence. "I didn't come to fight," he said. "I just wanted to say, I get it now." That caught me off guard. Get what? How it feels to be invisible. I needed help last week. Kendra said she was broke. Mom said, "Ask your brother." He chuckled. No joy in it. I told them you stopped paying. You should have seen their faces. Like the world tilted. I raised an eyebrow. "And what did you do?" I pawned my PS5. Took a weekend shift at the shop. First time I bought my own groceries in months. He exhaled. Shook his head. "You carried all of us. And we made it seem like it was your duty." Another pause. "I'm sorry." Man. The words landed heavy, not because they were dramatic, but because they were real. "Thanks," I said. "That means something."
He nodded and handed me a folded piece of paper.
"Don't worry, it's not a guilt letter." I opened it after he left. Inside was a check.
Small, but real. And a Post-it note. "For the cake? You shouldn't have had to pay for that." 2. Later that night, I walked past Avellino's, the restaurant where it all began. The waiter for my birthday, Cam, was outside taking a break. He spotted me, smiled. "Hey, I remember you." I smiled back. "Yeah, that was a rough night." He nodded. "You ever come back and eat the cake?" "Eventually." "Good. You looked like you needed it." He paused, looked me over. "You good now?" I thought about it. "Getting there?" He gave me a fist bump. Most folks never do. Monday morning, I printed 5 copies of that spreadsheet. What Marcus built. I mailed one to each sibling, one to Mom. No message. No threats. Just facts. Cold. Clean. Undeniable. And then I did something radical. I bought myself a round-trip ticket to Chicago. First class. 4 nights at a quiet boutique hotel with floor-to-ceiling windows. No agenda. No schedule. Just me. At the airport. While waiting to board, my phone buzzed. Kendra again. This time, a photo. It was of Mom, sitting on her porch, holding the spreadsheet like it was a verdict. The caption, "You made your point." I didn't respond, because this was never about making a point. It was about making a choice. One I should have made years ago. But what none of them knew, what I hadn't told anyone, was that Phase 4 was already in motion. The money I used to spend on them. I'd started funneling it into something else. Something bigger. Something permanent. And what came next wasn't personal. It was legacy. Legacy. It's a word people throw around like it's reserved for CEOs or founders or men with statues built in their honor. But legacy, I've learned, is quieter than that. It's not about being remembered by the world. It's about deciding what part of your story gets to live on and what finally gets buried. And I was ready to bury the version of me that existed only to serve. The Chicago trip was more than rest. It was the beginning of a new rhythm. I walked along Lake Michigan with nothing but a coffee and the cold wind on my face. No notifications. No requests. Just breath. Just me. And every night in that quiet hotel room, I worked. On what? Let me back up. See? After I cut financial ties with my family, I found myself with money I didn't even know I had. My budget shrank by nearly 40% overnight. So I started funneling it first into savings, then into something I hadn't dared dream of before. A scholarship fund. One designed specifically for young adults from dysfunctional homes. Kids who were too responsible too early. The Marcus Bennett Resilience Grant. No fanfare. No splashy website. Just a small endowment account. A seed. And it was growing. A month after I got back from Chicago, I launched a beta application form. 15 slots. Essay required. No GPA minimums. The prompt. Tell me about the moment you realized being needed and being loved aren't the same thing. Within 2 weeks, I had over 80 responses. Some were raw. Some were heartbreaking. All of them felt like reflections of who I had been. One girl wrote, "I paid my mom's rent since I was 16. I'm 23 now. I don't know what food tastes like when it's just for me." Another, "My older brother used to joke that I was his human ATM. I laughed. Until I realized I hadn't laughed in years. I read each one slowly, carefully, with reverence, because these were my people. Not the ones bound by blood, but the ones bound by experience. Back home, things were quiet. Too quiet. Kendra had gone silent since her cryptic, "You made your point" message. Jordan texted occasionally small things. Memes. Random updates. I didn't always reply. But when I did, it felt different. No obligation. Just choice. Even Mom had stopped calling. Until one morning, she did. The voicemail was short. "Marcus, I got your packet." The spreadsheet. I didn't know. It was that much. I guess I never thought to add it up. That's on me. Anyway, just wanted to say thank you. Even if I didn't say it back then. I listened twice. Once with skepticism, then again with softness. Progress doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's a voicemail that doesn't ask for money. Then came the twist. One I didn't expect. "Mrs. Patel, our building manager, called me out of the blue. Mr. Bennett, I wanted to make you aware. There's been a complaint filed. About you. I blinked. Me? Yes. Apparently, someone in your family has raised concerns about your emotional instability and your role in recent financial confusion regarding Unit 3B. My blood went cold. Wait, what exactly are they alleging? They're suggesting you manipulated your mother into giving up her lease, that you used undue influence to sever financial agreements. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't a complaint. It was a preemptive strike. Kendra. It had her fingerprints all over it. The next morning, I requested a meeting with Mrs. Patel and brought every document, every bank statement, text thread, and printed copy of transactions. I laid it all out like a lawyer in court. After 20 minutes, Mrs. Patel leaned back, side-eye, and said, Mr. Bennett, I believe you. This isn't the first time I've seen families turn on the one who tried to help. She gave me a quiet nod, a knowing one. And just like that, the false report was dropped. But the damage, it lingered. Not because I feared consequences, but because it proved something I hadn't wanted to believe. Sometimes, when you stop playing the role others wrote for you, they'll try to rewrite you as the villain. That night, I sat on my couch, holding the 2 movie tickets again. They'd followed me through every phase of this journey, a symbol I never meant to create, but one I couldn't ignore. 2 seats. Always empty. But now, they meant something else. They weren't proof of abandonment. They were proof of awakening. And I realized then I didn't want revenge. I wanted release. So I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I wrote a letter, not to my family, to myself. It started like this. Dear Marcus, you did everything you could. You gave more than most would. You held everyone up while breaking yourself in half. And still, they made you feel like it wasn't enough. But here's the truth. You were never lacking. You were overflowing. And now, it's time to rebuild with that same heart, but better boundaries. I folded it, put it in the same envelope as the tickets. Then I locked it in a safe. Not for them. For me. A time capsule of pain and proof that I didn't let it define me. But just when I thought the chapter was closing, another knock came. Late night. Unexpected. I opened the door, and there she was. Kendra. Eyes puffy. Hands shaking. She held up her phone, open to a GoFundMe page I hadn't seen. It was Mom, started by someone from her church, with the caption, Help a kind woman keep her home after being cut off by her son. The photo, an old one, of me and her at graduation. I felt my chest go tight. Kendra's voice cracked. I didn't post it, but I liked it. I shared it, because I was mad. She swallowed. But now I think I was just scared. Pause. I didn't know who I was if you weren't the safety net anymore. She looked up. Can we talk? I didn't move. I didn't speak. Because in that moment, I didn't know if I was ready. To forgive. To rebuild. To open the door again. But I knew the final decision was mine. Kendra stood there in the doorway, her eyes puffy, her lips pressed together like she was holding back an apology or a confession. Maybe both. I didn't say anything right away. My mind was scanning everything her expression. The GoFundMe on her phone. The 1,000 unspoken things between us. She glanced down, then up again. I know I shouldn't have come this late. I wasn't even sure you'd open the door. I leaned against the frame, said nothing. I didn't post that fundraiser. She repeated, but I shared it, out of spite. Then I saw people donate, and I realized they were buying into this story. The one where you're the bad guy, and Mom's the victim. She sighed, her shoulders slumping. And I let them. I could hear the truth in her voice, and the guilt riding shotgun. So why are you here now? I asked finally. She didn't hesitate. Because I don't want that story to be the last one people hear. Especially not the one you tell yourself. I let her in. Slowly. Like someone walking barefoot across broken glass. We sat in silence for a long time. She glanced around my apartment neat. Quiet. Filled with traces of a life built in the absence of noise. Then she looked at the envelope on my counter. The one I'd left there hours earlier. The one marked for me. She reached for it. Then paused. Can I? Go ahead. She pulled out the letter. The tickets. Read them both. Her eyes glazed over. You kept these? Yeah? Why? I shrugged. At first, it was proof. Then it was reminder. Now, I think it's just closure. She put the letter down gently, like it might shatter. You shouldn't have had to write that to yourself. No, I agreed. But I needed to. She nodded, looked away. I talked to Mom. She said quietly. Really talked. About everything. The money. The birthdays. How we treated you like an ATM with a smile. Her voice cracked. She cried. Said she never thought it would come to this. But maybe it had to. Later that week, something strange happened. One of the kids from the Resilience Grant program reached out. A 17-year-old named Elias. No parents. Living with an aunt who made him work 30 hours a week just to earn a bed. He wrote, "Your story reminded me that leaving doesn't mean losing. It means choosing." And that line stuck with me. Leaving doesn't mean losing. Because for so long, I had tied my worth to endurance. To how long I could carry others. To how much pain I could swallow without making a scene. But this kid, this stranger understood something it had taken me 34 years to figure out. Sometimes walking away is the loudest declaration of self-worth you'll ever make. The GoFundMe was still up. People were still donating. So I posted a comment not under my name, but through the official Resilience Grant account. It read, "No one owes you for the support they never agreed to give. If someone gave for years without asking, it wasn't obligation. It was love. But love isn't a contract. It's a gift. And gifts don't renew themselves by guilt." It got 217 likes. Kendra saw it. She messaged me a single emoji. Mirror. Yeah. It was that. Weeks passed. The air got cooler. Fall came in sharp gusts and golden leaves. And for once, I wasn't dreading the holidays. Jordan invited me to Thanksgiving. Said he was cooking this time, no takeout. No hand-me-downs. I said yes, not out of duty, out of desire. And that difference, it changed everything. The final twist came on Christmas morning. A letter in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single line. "I'm proud of you." Even if I never said it. Dad. I read it 3 times. My hands trembled. And I cried. Not because it fixed everything. Not because it made him a hero again. But because sometimes, the smallest crack in a wall is enough to let the light through. So, where am I now? Still healing. Still learning. But I'm no longer performing pain just to be called strong. I no longer need to earn the seat at the table. I built my own table. And now, I invite who deserves to sit with me. To anyone watching this, maybe you've been Marcus. Maybe you are Marcus. The invisible backbone. The quiet provider. The one who gets forgotten until something breaks. Here's what I'll say to you. Your worth isn't measured by how many people depend on you. It's measured by how well you protect your own heart in a world that teaches you to ignore it. And to those who've taken people like us for granted, We may have forgiven you, but we've also outgrown you. So if you found yourself in this story, don't scroll past. Tell me in the comments, what boundary are you finally ready to set? And if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. I tell real stories like this every week. Stories that hurt and heal. Until next time, protect your peace. You deserve to be seen.